Just want to make a quick update, continuing on from the last two videos that I put up. I'm only in the door there now, shortly there now. Been followed around, usually by Waterford Gardaí, Waterford Freewheelers and cronies of Waterford Council. It's no surprise that these three are all interlinked with each other. And that's just something. And that's something I have to deal with. And in the long term, I hope to prove my case. Like Waterford Freewheelers, I'd imagine their pride is after been hurt. But at the end of the day, what I'm after been saying, it's either true or untrue. So if it's untrue, I understand how they might have an issue. But we all know very well what I've been saying is 100% true. We have these people up and down Ireland, or people like this that are involved in groups and organisations. And realistically, they're waiting for the opportunity for someone to say, well, you're giving all the work to all these migrants that are coming in. And then the government will say, well, the work is there if you want it. And then people will be talking about who's getting what work, rather than talking about the influx of these undocumented migrants of military age that are all healthy being forced upon you. And that's what it is. They're being forced upon you. Multiculturalism never works. Multiculturalism has never worked. Forced multiculturalism does not work and will never ever work. We have the voting now tomorrow, so I just want to say one or two things. I want to get off my own kind of subject and my own situation, whereas people in Waterford will know how corrupt my case is. And I'm prepared to go all the way with that, as I've been saying, so you can either deal with it or not deal with it. But I want to point out one or two things there. And Waterford Freewheelers, Waterford Freewheelers and other associates belong to Waterford Freewheelers, because there's a lot of cronies in and out of each other's pockets. You have it in the councils up and down Ireland. You have a large network, and your actions up until this point today, the 28th of November, speaks for themselves. Not about what I've been saying or what other people have been saying, or the lack of what you've been saying, or the lack of what you've been saying as a group. Let's be honest about it. Your actions up until this point speaks for themselves. You stepped on my toes when that Ambrose twit out in Tramore decided to drive my ex around with my daughter in the car, thinking he was going to intimidate me. So suck it up. Such is life. As I've just after been saying, how much of what I'm after been saying throughout the years is false and how much is true. All of what I've after been saying is true. People know this, but they tiptoe around the likes of these freewheelers. Unfortunately, they're living off kind of past glories. There would have been one or two, there would have been a handful of them there in the 80s and 90s, would have kind of had a reputation. And it is what it is like. They would have earned a reputation, so they had a reputation. There's about 80% of them now hiding behind other people's reputation. It would be more fit for you, as I said in previous videos, to support your fellow Waterford man. Not me now, the people that are keeping you in jobs. But you won't. Now I know why you won't, and I pointed it out. You're so far up the backside of Waterford City County Council and the guards and your corrupt politicians that you're going to benefit. Long term, you're going to benefit from this. Because when the contracts are all given out realistically, further down the road, there'll be certain groups that will be first in the queue. Now I'm only in the door, and as I said in my last video, like I don't want to be kind of like making these videos every time I'm followed from A to B, because this is like all day, every day. My wife wants to say a few things when the time is right. There's a lot of stuff going on in my personal life. I'm not going to get into it. It's not my place to say. But in time, I will speak to my wife on camera and people can make up their own mind. I have Sinn Féin now pushing that they're the new hope. Don't get left behind. Did anybody see that interview of Mary Lou MacDonald where she was challenged by a chap and his missus? And he's basically calling her out on these undocumented migrants, but like being planted, being forced upon the Irish people. She wouldn't answer the question. She tried to answer every other question, beat around the bush, rather than answer the question. If you don't want this, you need to not vote for Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil. They're worse. Sinn Féin are worse than any of them. They're traitors. They have betrayed us 100%. Whatever about Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael and all these other parties, we all knew they were greedy, capitalistic snakes, traitors. Do you know what I mean? We thought Sinn Féin were the voice of the people, the voice of the working class. They weren't. And I'd imagine that Mary Lou and her whole kind of silence regarding the whole SPHE and that shite that they're kind of trying to teach in school, that whole gender ideology, I'd imagine that would have a lot to do with the fact that her brother transitioned to a woman in 2021. So I'd imagine that plays a big part in it. You had that debate the other day on RTE. Did anybody see this? A debate. How can you have a debate when you don't have all the people there? Realistically. A propaganda machine is all that RTE is. Those people that appear on that, whether it's Labour, Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, Aim to, these people are simply squabbling over how to spend your money. That's all it is. There's nobody really addressing the influx of all these kind of foreign nationalists being forced upon you. This is about greed, dressed up as multiculturalism and understanding and progressiveness. This is about greed and nothing more than greed. And this is why the media won't tell you which women and which children are being tacked up and down the country, because it would undermine what they're trying to push upon you. But luckily for us, we get to look to the EU and look to the UK, and we get to see what was done to all these countries. And there's not one country in the EU that will stand up and say, we have benefited from this. There's not one single country. I think there's 28, 29, maybe 30 countries in the EU. If you include the UK, I know it's not the EU, but none of them. There's none of them. So why in God's name would you inviting the enemy, your house in the enemy, paying for everything? And they are the enemy. Unfortunately, they are the enemy. You have extremist Islamic, more or less kind of I can't say the word there now because I'll probably get blocked or something. So I won't, but you all know the word. These are extremists. These are anti-Christian, anti-Catholic. They make videos. They don't keep this a secret. Our own government knows this, that the Catholic people, the Christian people, the Irish people are under threat from these people, and they invite them into your country. Like we have David Cullinane in Waterford, one of the most kind of sleaziest, two-faced kind of TDs that you have within Ireland. Now, I have a personal issue, obviously, with David Cullinane and his good buddy, our ex-minister, ex-mayor John Halligan, who's desperately trying to cover up the actions of all his siblings. And David Cullinane will be the one that will tell you about all of this if you want to, but he don't. He's not in the position to kind of question this. Oh wait, no, that's right, he is. He's the health spokesperson for Sinn Féin, but he's very silent on this because he don't want to rub up John Halligan the wrong way, because it was John Halligan who paved the way for Mr Cullinane to get the most votes in Waterford. And then you have the likes of that John Heron, and he up there with Sib2 up in Ballybricken, shouting down working class people, trying to have a voice against all this nonsense. Another hypocrite, another so-called Republican, another hypocrite. Like, you can take a pick with all of these. We have them up and down the country. We have Mary Butler in Waterford again. Only 3 weeks ago, Mary Butler was questioned on why she voted yes on the hate speech. And her daughter found it hilarious. Camera up in your man's face. So that's Mary Butler and her daughter. Let's not forget about Mary Butler and her daughter. Because it wasn't that long ago, there was another issue with Mary Butler and her daughter, where the chap ended up being abused, where her account was apparently hacked because somebody was abused. The chap faced horrible abuse. I'm not going to get into all the details regarding these schools. And in an argument with Mary Butler, this was thrown in his face. And then they pulled the whole, my account was hacked. Mary Butler is another traitor. Another John Cummins, another David Cullinane, another Micheál Martin. All of these people are the same. They're all singing off the same hymn sheet. They're squabbling over how to spend the money. They're obviously after coming into this huge amount of money. Hence the reason you have your security hut. Cost them 1.3 million. You probably would have got it done for less than 100,000. Like vultures trying to pick over as quick as they can, because they know there's a volume of money there. Just like the hospital is taking forever. They know there's a volume of money there. Just like BAM and their quote. What was their quote? 25 million, was it? The thing was done for like 100 grand, was it, or something? Your bike shed, there's another example. No one is questioning. They don't even have the courtesy to even give you an excuse or look into any of these. They just dismiss you. You have the likes of Roderick Gorman knocking door to door, lying directly to every door that he knocks at, when people are asking, did you tweet out and invite all these people over? Despite the fact the tweet came from his verified Twitter account, he stand at your doorway and he lied to your face. Roderick Gorman is not fit for that position. Minister of the children, he has no interest in the children. Children went missing under his watch. He got rid of the paperwork before anyone looked into it. He's friends with Peter Tatchell of the UK, LGBTQ+. Why are so many of these sexual deviants linked into the LGBTQ+? What's that about? Like the likes of Rodrigo Gorman has said like gay rights back like many years, in my opinion. And this is not a rant, and this is not me having a go at anyone gay or anything like that. Like I couldn't care less what people do in their private life. But these people need to be called out. If it was a heterosexual man or a woman, they'd be called out and they'd be crucified. But because Rodrigo Gorman likes to wear his gayness on his sleeve, we all have to tiptoe around him. This is a man now who put up on Twitter, this is the professionalism of this person who put up on his Twitter in 2007 how Hamza Yusuf was an absolute ride. Do you know what I mean? That's the kind of mentality of what you're dealing with. He's not professional, he shouldn't be in the job. We have a T-boy as a T-shock. He has zero social skills. He couldn't even speak with a carer only a week ago. Did you see how dismissive he was to that woman? That woman has done more for this country than he has. He's never worked a day in his life. We have Helen McEntee. Her husband is the director of marketing for Abvoy, ABBVIE. They make puberty blockers. And now we have Helen McEntee then paving the way, acknowledging all these genders. How is that not a conflict of interest? How in God's name is that not a conflict of interest? In any other country, that would be classed as insider trade. People are trying to excuse greed and treachery in the name of kind of multiculturalism and progressiveness and understanding. It's treachery. The people of Ireland do not want it. Them politicians are there to represent the people of Ireland. They're not listening to the people of Ireland. And unfortunately then we have the risk of Sinn Féin potentially getting in. Think about what they're like now, and they're not even in power. You could imagine what they're like. And you could imagine what they're really like now if they get into power. All their sex scandals. And speaking of sex scandal there, someone want to look into that whole children's group link stuff that's run by Mary Halligan, the sister of our ex-minister, ex-mayor John Halligan. That should have been investigated 3.5 decades ago. And you wouldn't have had half the amount of victims. Because they wouldn't have been on the premises. Another sex scandal linked to Sinn Féin, but they're all at it. As Mary Lou McDonald said it herself, we're only doing what everyone else is doing. This is coming from Mary Lou McDonald. Now, she should have denied it, but the mask slipped. So tomorrow now we're going to go into votes. And regardless of what people think of me, I understand that's fair enough. Don't like what I have to say, don't share anything that I have to say. But you owe it to your children, you owe it to your history, you owe it to everything, to grow a pair of balls and have a voice against this. Because if you want an example of like what's going to happen to your country, look over to the EU. I only looked at a documentary last night on Portugal. Like you wouldn't believe the state of that country. You have men in front of children pissing in fountains, shitting all over the place. Multiculturalism does not work. It doesn't work. It has never worked. Forced multiculturalism is never ever going to work. It's only going to eventually lead to a war. That's what's going to happen. We have Micheál Martin, one of the biggest snakes of all, using his family now. If anybody's seen this ad on the internet, he's using his family in an ad to make him look more appealing. This man is a traitor, an absolute traitor. He sold out our sovereignty years ago. What we have running the country are nothing more than puppets, lapdogs. You look to America then, you have Donald Trump, Elon Musk, Robert Kennedy. Look at the difference in what they have. They have leadership. The first thing he brought in, he got rid of all that gender bullshit. There's a male and there's a female. Bit of common sense. Like these people are gambling with not only your future, your kids' future. They're gambling with your history. They're playing God with the gender of your children, and you still won't speak up. And I'm aware that I'm arguing with the likes of the freewheelers and all this kind of stuff. Well, they stuck their nose into my business first, right? Because it was in their interest to support the likes of Waterford Council and the corruption going on down there. It was in their interest to support Waterford Gardaí. It was in their interest to support TD David Cunnan, because for years they wanted to go around giving the illusion they were Republicans. But now that they have to actually do something, oh wait, no, I'm not anymore. And that's the level of men that we have. We've been feminized. We've been weakened. Michael Collins had the right idea 100 years ago with these kind of people. We are not more than human currency for these people, as are all these migrants being sent all over the world. It's so bad in their country that they have to come here. And then they want to make this country like their country, which they left from. That makes no sense. There's nobody even speaking about Enoch Burke. Out of sight, out of mind. There's not one of the politicians I've heard speak about Enoch Burke. Because he wouldn't endorse this poisonous gender ideology that was being pushed into classrooms. That man lost his career, lost all his savings. His whole family has gone through hell. Let's be honest about it. We have weak men. And they've surrounded themselves by weak men. And they're all in it for the money. Don't think this is about kind of understanding or progressiveness. Because it doesn't work. We get to look to the youth. We get to look to Europe. As I just said, it doesn't work. It don't work. It's not going to work. Sorry now if I'm speaking a bit quick because I'm trying to squeeze it into 20 minutes because time is limited on these. And over the next few weeks, I'm going to really start putting stuff out there. And it's going to probably kind of upset a lot of people because I'm going to address my medical records. I don't have any health problems, touch wood, thank God. I don't have any mental health problems. But I applied for life insurance not too long ago there, and I was refused. And the broker was good enough to get the refusal letter for me. And what was wrote on the refusal letter, I never went to the doctor and described any of this kind of stuff. Never ever did I go to the doctor and describe this. But this same surgery knew very well that what I was being put through, and he knew very well what my mother was being put through, and he knew very well of the corruption from Tramore Garda. I'll speak about all this over the next few weeks and wait to see how more serious this is going to get. Now and the risk of me being set up, or they'll be trying to make me homeless, or they'll do something, it's going to be a whole lot greater. If it could be at this stage, let's be honest about it. But this is going to get a whole lot serious. We have like Waterford solicitor Leona MacDonald scared shitless that her actions are going to come to light. And if nothing else, what I have taken away from the Conor McGregor trial, the whole civil case, I now know 100% that if I take a civil case, I would definitely win. Because the amount of holes in his case, and he was found liable. And while those at the top then cream off the top as quick as they can't get their hands on the money that they've come into quick enough. Let's be honest about it. Every transaction that's worth tens of millions, there's money going missing all over the place. All over the place. We need the likes of an Elon Musk. You see what he's doing in America? He's finding money all over the place that went missing. We need the likes of that in Ireland. But they don't want that. Now when they're dealing with the likes of the Healy Rays, or the Hall Martins, or your Helen McEntees, they're trying to stop you from saying any of this stuff now, making it a crime. For calling out their wrongdoing, they want to make that a crime. And unfortunately, there's going to be many of us go to prison. Being honest with you, there'll be many of us go to prison. But even more unfortunately, there's a large group of people in the middle pretending they don't see it. Because if they acknowledge the way it is, they might actually have to do so. So I just wanted to say that. Regarding my own case, there's a lot of other documentation that's had to come into light. Now is not the right time to bring it up. But I'll keep going with that. I couldn't care less about the pressure applied from David Cunnan's cronies, or your freewheelers, or your corrupt guards, or your Waterford Council. Waterford Council are caught by their balls. They protected Roisin Doherty and Leo Kennedy after the two of these got caught out to me murders. I'd hardly make that up. I have emails and everything around the situation. And by removing these emails from my file, it shows that Waterford City Council were complicit to their actions of these. So I just wanted to say that if you could share this, I'd appreciate it. I'm not looking for likes or any of this kind of stuff. The reason I ask you to share it is to bump it up through the algorithm. That's the only reason I ask you to share it. Within Waterford, the likes of this Waterford freewheeler, this group should have been called out years ago. Because this is not new. This is going on years. He should have been called out years ago. He can still come out and speak up for the working class people at Waterford who keep you in a job, who keep you employed. He can still do it. Don't be using me as some kind of an excuse, or we won't speak up to that, he's associated with that. I have purposely kept myself away from all of this kind of stuff. so that people might come forward and speak up against this. So don't be using me as an excuse to condone your cowardice, which is essentially what it is. And we have this up and down Ireland, up and down Ireland. Nobody wants to say it like it is. Nobody wants to address it like it is. And if you do say it like it is, unfortunately, you're probably going to come across kind of unhinged or kind of like, and this is what they're saying about me, that I'm paranoid and all this kind of stuff, or that I'm purposely causing trouble. There's a whole load of corruption in the case. I'm offering evidence. They won't look into the evidence. I'm trying to force the evidence. I tried to kind of goad them into bringing me to court. If I'm being honest with you, they knew all this. They won't bring me to court. I was willing to go to court as the defendant. They don't want me speaking about the siblings of our ex-minister, ex-mayor, because they're getting their actions covered for so many years, they don't know what to do. And I have hope that one day I will get this into a court. And unfortunately, the media in Ireland is essentially kind of not more than a propaganda machine. To find a decent journalist that's going to cover this story is virtually impossible now, because even if a journalist did cover a story, like where would they put it? Where would they put it? On RTE? On Virgin Media? Like where would they cover this? But I have faith that this story will eventually get out. It's just going to take time. And I'm 10 years at this, so I'm not likely to give up realistically. I'm not going to give up. I might take some time away for personal reasons, which I'm not going to get into. But as I said, I don't have any mental health problems. I don't have any physical problems. Touch wood, thank God. I've never had any mental health problems. And what I'm saying could easily be made go away into doing an investigation into what I've been saying. And let me offer the evidence that I've been trying to offer. Let me hand over the evidence. This is why they won't let me into the CEO in Waterford. I was trying to get in there just for the meeting, and I was going to give them the emails that they removed from my file, and then they would have had to do something. They recognise this. It's a whole story. If you want to go back to my videos, you can probably piece it all together. I know I don't come across too well. I find it very difficult talking on camera. I find it extremely difficult when I have to talk about kind of emotional stuff like regarding the passing of my parents. God forbid I be allowed to grieve my parents. I want to allow grieve my parents. Scumbag Henry Halligan, which would be the brother of our ex-mayor, ex-minister. He interfered with my mother's funeral. Well, he's interfering with a lot of stuff in Waterford, getting his actions covered for many, many years. And in order to undermine and then the people trying to come forward, they brought him up to a children's charity. Because then people would be thinking, well, that mustn't be true if he's up around children and a children's charity. And that's only the tip of the iceberg that I can talk about. There's an ongoing case right now that I can't talk about. And when that's all ruled upon and when all the appeals are finished, I want to read some messages and some emails. And I'll speak about just how much Mary Halligan and John Halligan knew what was going on up with Children's Group Link and why these people were purposely brought up to Children's Group Link in an effort to uphold certain people's good name. So I'm just going to leave it there now because I've gone on a bit, as always. Use your vote wisely. Vote independent. These people do not have the future of your kids at heart. We as Irish people, to these people now, are in the way of them getting bigger and bigger bank balances. That's realistically, unfortunately, what it is. They betrayed us. So I'm going to leave it there. If you can share it, I'd appreciate it. If you don't want to share it, that's fine too. And as for Waterford freewheelers, you still have time to gather around kind of some independent TDs and give them your vote. Use your platform wisely instead of following me around. Bye.